capturing snapshots of our lives, photographs help us relive memories and look back on moments that could well have been forgotten. Stills of days out at the beach, weddings, holidays, and everyday family life usually portray joyful instants that we look back on fondly. But some photos, while seemingly benign at first, take on a whole new reasoning when you know the backstory. Let's take a look at 12 seemingly normal photos with truly creepy backstories. It's 1999, and American high school students are taking a group photo. Amongst the smiles, funny poses, and friend groups is something chilling. Sitting at the top left of the photo are a group of friends laughing and pointing at the camera. Look closer. They're actually pretending to shoot at the camera. While this in itself is creepy, what if you knew that two of these boys are Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris? Not long after this photo was taken, on April 20th, 1999, Dylan and Eric walked into Columbine High School, armed with guns, ammo, and homemade bombs. They opened fire and killed 12 students, one teacher, wounded 23, and then took their own lives. The impact of this moment is still felt almost 20 years later, and it now makes the seemingly innocent school photo take on a whole new meaning. Gary Stempler and his wife are on their dream holiday in Australia. After climbing aboard a dive boat, named the Spoilsport, they excitedly set out for a day's diving. When they'd been underwater for a while, Gary snapped this photo of his wife. What they didn't know until a few weeks later, when the pictures were developed, is that they had actually captured Tina Watson's moment of death. Look closely. In the background, Tina lies on the ocean floor, drowning. On her honeymoon with her new husband Gabe, it was originally believed that Tina had gotten into difficulty and dropped to the ocean floor, but witnesses told a different story. They claimed to have seen Gabe embracing Tina in a bear hug while she struggled. It is thought that during this struggle, Gabe disconnected her oxygen line and then held her while she drowned, eventually letting her go to drift to the ocean floor, which is when this image was captured. Due to legal issues and a lack of evidence, Gabe only spent 12 months in prison on a manslaughter charge. We will never know if he really did kill his new bride to claim her life insurance money, or if this was just a tragic accident. What looks like a CCTV snapshot of two boys walking along holding hands is seemingly innocent. They could be brothers or cousins. But what this camera actually captured was the abduction of Jamie Bulger. A crime that shook the nation. On Friday the 12th of February 1993, Jamie was out shopping with his mother Denise in Bootle. While in a shop, Denise let go of Jamie's hand and turned to look in her bag for a split second. By the time she turned back, Jamie was gone. Unbeknownst to her, two 10-year-old boys, Robert Thompson and John Venables, had entered the shopping centre with a plan to abduct a small child and, sickeningly, to push him into oncoming traffic. Their first step was complete and they abducted little Jamie, but they didn't carry out the second part of their plan. They went on to do something much worse. This heinous act is still felt today, as many feel that justice was far from served, as the two boys only spent 8 years in prison, while being given new identities and new lives on their release, allowing them to carry on as if nothing happened. I will not go into details of the actual crime here as they're too awful to comprehend, but Jamie tragically lost his life that day, and this CCTV image will forever haunt those who were around to see the details of this disgusting crime unfold. On July 16th, 2011, Tyler Hadley announced on Facebook that he was throwing a house party and that everyone was invited. As the evening wore on, around 60 people showed up, including Tyler's best friend, Michael Mandel. This photo shows Tyler and Michael posing for a selfie. The party was wild, with the house being trashed along the way. But if those teenagers attending would have looked slightly closer, they may have seen signs of a horrendous crime. For what the partygoers didn't know was that earlier that day, Tyler had brutally murdered his parents. While his mother was sitting at the family computer, Tyler had stood behind her, silently, for 5 minutes before setting upon her with a 17-inch claw hammer. He bludgeoned his mother 36 times in the head and back. His father, hearing the screams of his wife, ran towards the noise and straight into the hammer of Tyler, who went on to inflict 39 injuries to his father's head and chest. Then he hid the bodies in their bedroom, cleaned up, and organised a party. Look at this photo again, but now with the knowledge that Tyler has murdered his parents only hours earlier, and just moments before this photo was taken, has confessed to Michael and shown him the bodies. This photo could be mistaken for a corporate shot of a meeting, but this was actually taken aboard Air Force One on November 22nd, 1963. The woman at the front of the shot is Jackie Kennedy, still wearing the same blood-stained clothes that she had on hours earlier. The man with his head turned is Lyndon B. Johnson, who has just been sworn in as president. If you look closer, you can see that Jackie is clearly mourning the loss of her husband, John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated earlier that day, while Lyndon B. Johnson appears to be looking at someone, his longtime friend, Texas Congressman Albert Thomas, who is giving him a wink and a smirk. Why would these two friends be smirking and winking at each other during such a tragic time? Well, some people believe that President Johnson was behind Kennedy's assassination. While he may not have pulled the trigger, they believe he was responsible for Kennedy's death. Knowing this, the photograph takes on a different feeling entirely. The man in charge of Air Force One at the time, General Godfrey McHugh, later said that Lyndon B. Johnson's behaviour on the plane was obscene, while White House photographer Cecil Staunton, who took this photo, said that it could have either been innocent or sinister, but he would have leaned towards the latter. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one. This snapshot of a father and daughter was taken on Saturday, August 15th, 1998 in Omaha. Bustling with shoppers preparing for the return of the schools after the summer holiday and an upcoming carnival. Packed with families and children, this was another busy weekend in the popular destination, except the lives of those that were there that day are about to drastically change forever. This photo shows a secret in plain sight. The red Cavalier next to the duo is stolen and was driven to that spot at around 2 p.m. That same red Cavalier contains a 500-pound bomb that will detonate just a few minutes after this picture was taken. The explosion tore through the centre and was responsible for 29 deaths, including several children and a pregnant woman with twins, as well as 220 injuries. Miraculously, the man and child in this photo survived. Unfortunately, the photographer did not. This is known as the single worst bombing of the Troubles in Ireland, and it happened after the official end of the Troubles signalled by the Good Friday Agreement. Many people are unable to forgive the real IRA for this absolutely disgraceful act. John and Jackie Nill loved visiting Thailand. In fact, they called it their second home. This photo is one of several taken on Boxing Day 2004. At first glance, this looks like a tranquil beach scene, looking out over the ocean. But what the Nills didn't know is that they have inadvertently captured an approaching tsunami that would go on to devastate the area. Look closer, you can see the incoming wave and the tide moving out. Triggered by an underwater earthquake, the devastation in Thailand was one of several giant waves that went on to kill almost 250,000 people. while injuring many more and causing immeasurable damage. Unfortunately, the Nils did not survive, but their passports and camera were found and later returned to their family. Two brothers smiling and laughing for the camera shows a true snapshot of a loving family. In this photo, Thomas Whitaker on the left and his brother Kevin on the right are captured by their mother behind the camera. They're about to go to dinner to celebrate Thomas graduating from college. What this photo fails to capture is that an evil plan is already in motion, because just hours later, after arriving home from dinner, Thomas has conspired with a friend to have his entire family murdered. As they walked into the house, his brother was shot and killed instantly. His mother was shot and died on the way to the hospital. His father managed to survive the attack. Thomas was shot in the arm to make it look like he was a victim of the crime. It took the police an entire year to determine that Thomas was the mastermind of the crime, and during this time, he lived with his father, grieving for the family that he had murdered. Just think, when this photo was taken, he already knew that in a few hours his family would be dead at his hand. This next photograph is a recreation, with good reason. What looks like an innocent sphere of metal is actually concealing what is known as the demon core, a subcritical mass of radioactive plutonium intended for use during World War II in a third nuclear bomb. In 1946, physicist Louis Slotin was conducting an experiment on the core, in a room full of onlookers, which involved two half spheres of metal encasing the radioactive material. The two halves of the sphere were never allowed to meet. If they did, it could cause the instantaneous formation of a critical mass, and they could create a lethal power excursion. In English, anyone near this runaway radioactive material would die, quickly. Slotin was known for bravado, and instead of following the designed protocol of using specific equipment to stop the two halves touching, he decided to use a screwdriver. Yes, this is true. During the experiment, his screwdriver slipped, the two halves met, and a flash of blue light washed over his body. This was an instant, lethal dose of radiation. Slotin quickly flipped the top half of the sphere off with his screwdriver and stopped any further effects. Due to the position of his body, he took the full dose of radiation, while thankfully shielding everyone else in the room. Unfortunately, 9 days later, he died from acute radiation poisoning. This photo looks like a candid snapshot of a woman and her dog in the English countryside. They could be taking a Sunday stroll to walk off their lunch. But the picture takes on an entirely different feel when I tell you that woman in the photo is Myra Hindley. The location is Saddleworth Moors. She's with her dog Poppet, and the person taking the photograph is Ian Brady. She is looking down on the hidden grave of one of their young victims, John Kilbride. Between 1963 and 1965, the Moors murderers kidnapped and killed 5 children in and around the Manchester area. They would then bury their remains on Saddleworth Moors and repeatedly visit the sites, taking photographs for their sick collection. Hindley and Brady have been described as 2 sadistic killers of the utmost depravity. And looking at this photograph, you can see why. Out for a stroll in 1975, 4 siblings from the McQuilkin family were delighted and in awe when their hair started standing up on air for no reason. Quickly stopping, Michael and Sean posed for a picture, but they had no idea what was about to happen. Unbeknownst to them, this phenomena was happening for a reason. The air was electrically charged. Moments after this picture was taken, lightning struck and caused Sean 3rd-degree burns. They weren't the only ones affected. One man close by lost his life, while another was in a coma for 6 months. All 4 siblings survived that day, but sadly Sean went on to later take his own life. Before we get to the end of this video, I just want to say thanks for taking the time to watch it. I'm currently editing the first of my longer form documentary style videos, and this one is sure to cause debate. You do not want to miss it. So don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell so you don't miss out on the latest from Everything Creepy. Okay, this is a bonus one, and it isn't a photo, but I had to include it. In a moment, I'm going to play you a clip, and I want you to watch carefully and keep in your mind what you think.
I don't know, I waited a month or longer, and I didn't get no answer from them, so then I had this lady copy the checks, on a copier. So then I send the copies to them, and now they sent me the jewel, see? I don't know if the jewel is genuine or not. Take a look.
Just an interview, right? Wrong. This is a clip from the Errol Morris documentary, Vernon, Florida. The film has no real narrative. It's just made up of interviews with some colourful and quirky characters in their rather mundane small town. Thinking that that's all that it is, it's a good documentary to watch. It's not the best documentary in the world, but it's cute, touching, and often funny. But the thing is, that's not the documentary Errol Morris set out to make. In fact, the original name of the documentary was Nub City. You see, this particular city, at the time, had the highest rate of limb amputation in America per capita. People missing fingers, hands, feet, etc. Errol Morris discovered that the people were doing it to themselves, on purpose, in order to collect insurance money. While filming the documentary, Morris started to receive death threats from the residents, who were scared he was going to expose their secret. He took the threats seriously enough that he completely re-edited the entire film, so it never mentions anything about the amputations. So now, it's a nice documentary about some colourful and quirky characters in their rather mundane small town. Creepy.